Today was again one of those days. Today I've been thinking about how we mistake visibility for value a lot of the times. So just today I was walking home from my grocery shopping. I was completely overloaded and everything was suddenly too much and too loud and too crowded, too full. And then I passed by this empty restaurant that I always wanted to try and yet never did so far. And there was only one person having lunch. And this made me think of this interesting thing of empty and full restaurants. You probably know those streets where one restaurant is beside the next one and all of them are screaming for attention and guests. And maybe you too catch yourself thinking, oh, here, this restaurant, it's full of people. So because everybody is in here and not there, it means it must be good, or at least better. But is it true? Crowded doesn't really say anything about excellence, does it? It just says something about visibility, or maybe just marketing, or simply everybody doing what everybody else is doing. But I feel this is also happening in art. I see so many reels on social media, for example, showing those time lapses of how we go from one brush stroke to a finished product. And frankly, I personally don't know one artist who actually likes doing those. They prefer to have their space to do their work in silence. Sometimes maybe just hours of sitting and staring out the window and doing nothing, or full days or weeks like that. You know, it's not how it is shown on a reel. This is sometimes how we execute, but not how we create. And somewhere along the way, we started equating process videos with artistic value. Loudness with confidence, constant posting with success. And I can't buy into this. There's this huge push right now for artists to show the process, film the layers, document every brush stroke, document every brush stroke, document every brush stroke, document every brush stroke. Explain the meaning, narrate the journey, tell your story, expose yourself, be transparent. It's all marketing advice used for any other business. Any. And the argument is always the same. People need to feel connected. But I ask you, do they? When you scroll through Instagram, for example, and stumble upon another process video, does that connect you to the final artwork you see in the end? Does it actually satisfy anything other than a moment of curiosity, distraction, entertainment? And we have learned that the algorithm prefers movement. Okay, I get it. We hear this everywhere. But that is what the platform wants, not what the user necessarily wants. I remember Instagram years ago, where people were just posting their art, sharing their most precious, being proud of themselves, and just showing it to other people. And other people were valuing it, commenting on it, falling in love with images, etc. And yes, this was connecting. No one asked for the process or the story back then, or at least I don't remember it. We were just in awe because something in us was touched by seeing something beautiful or meaningful or touching, important, whatever it was. But now A lot of the push for process content isn't about art at all. It's content. It's about feeding platforms that prioritize motion. It's not made for other people. We are working to satisfy algorithms and not the eyes and the souls of people, for them to fall in love with what we do. When I watch a reel of someone painting, for example, I watch it because I'm curious and something is moving on the screen. But it doesn't make the finished artwork more powerful to me at all. It doesn't suddenly multiply the depth. I don't understand it better. I don't like it more because I just watched how it was made. To me, it is either I feel something or I don't. That just doesn't change, no matter how excellent the skill might be. And frankly, nobody hangs a time lapse on their wall in the end. To me, at least, art and mystery have always been intertwined and part of beauty. When you explain a joke, it just stops being funny. When you overexpose something sacred, it just loses some of the charge. And yet, we live in a culture that constantly says, expose more, be transparent, be visible, be loud, prove the effort, show the struggle, show everything. But if you are more introverted, like a lot of artists are, me included, and maybe you are more reflective, more private in your creative process, that pressure can feel like you are being told that your natural way of working is wrong, that your experience is off, that you are wrong. As if silence equals irrelevance. Like if you're not constantly narrating yourself, you simply cease to exist. But maybe that's just a mismatch between the platform and the temperament. The platform rewards motion and noise. Yeah, it's what it is. But it's not necessarily substance, just entertainment. But art, your art, is bigger than that. It rewards resonance and recognition. And those are not the same thing. And I think this is where a lot of creatives quietly lose themselves. They start overriding their depth to fit into a system that wasn't built for depth in the first place. They are told to animate themselves into relevance and turn something sacred into content because they have been told that's the price of survival. It makes me emotional. And maybe sometimes, yes, it's a strategic tool, okay? And I'm not against strategy. And I totally get that we want our art to sell and make a living that fits our needs, of course. But then, what sells art? I believe it is resonance and identity, the feeling that this belongs into my world. It makes me see something differently or feel something deeply. And yes, sometimes it's just status, sure. But more often than not, it is connection. But I don't want to give up the hope. I think strategy should serve the work and not erode it and make it mass compatible on a platform that punishes people for not playing the game of the algorithm. There's this image of the salmon swimming upstream. Everybody else moves with the current because it's easier, and faster, and maybe safer. But the salmon goes the other way, just simply because this is where it needs to go. The salmon is not thinking about why he doesn't fit in And if he's going the wrong way, he just goes there because that's his path. And maybe for some of us, creating quietly and showing selectively and protecting mystery, maybe that's our upstream. The Salmon would say, the finished work is enough. Mystery is not a weakness. I don't owe you the sacred part. And that may be the boundary. It might not be as loud, of course. It might not be as instantly rewarded, unfortunately. And our culture tends to shame introversion and stillness and this quiet poetry. We are made to believe that if it's not loud, it must not be confident. If it's not viral, it must not be valuable. If it's not documented, it must not be real. If it's an empty restaurant, it must not be good. But that's an illusion. Because, and you might call me old-fashioned, but value is not the same as visibility. Even if I repeat myself, confidence is not the same as noise. Real confidence doesn't advertise itself constantly. It's just there. So maybe the question isn't how to perform more and to be more visible and to fall into the trap of mistaking external validation with value. Maybe it's how to stay aligned while navigating a system that prefers movement over meaning. And maybe it's okay if not every part of our process is public. Maybe, just maybe, the finished work is enough. And with that, thanks for watching and thanks for keeping me company. Bye for now.